Hey legends, welcome back to a new episode of Here's Rodder's Reviews. We're going to get into Megatrons Master Plan Part 2. Transformers Season 2, Generation 1. Absolutely fantastic. These two episodes, for me, some of the best Transformers in the entire run. Megatrons Master Plan is a fantastic couple of episodes. And as I did say, I think Michael Bay pulled quite heavily from these two episodes whenever he was doing like Dark of the Moon. I think that was the one where the Autobots were kicked off the planet. As I say, I'm not the biggest fan of the Bay movies. I know the first three weren't bad, but the beginning of episode 2 of Megatron's Master Plan, the Autobots have been evicted from Earth, and the Decepticons now get a Decepticon day. The humans are fully behind them, and it just goes to show you that even back in the 80s, it was just, how quickly the public attitude would turn depending on what the media was putting out. You see it on TV or YouTube video and you believe pretty much anything. So that's Megatron used that to his advantage way back in 1985. So they're getting their day dedicated to them in episode 2, just the way the Autobots had the Autobot Day in episode 1. Like, there's even a kid cosplaying as Megatron in the crowds cheering them on, and Spike, Sparkplug and Chip are in the crowd too, and they can't get their head around what has happened here at all. Meanwhile, Autobots, they're on their ship in deep space, and they're on the verge of turning on Optimus Prime, and Ironhide, he's like, maybe I should take this out, and the one that got us into this mess. And Optimus Prime at this point, he's still, I did what was necessary, honour before everything else. It was a human's choice for them to leave, he had to stick with it. And a cliff jumper jumps up, runs for the controls, and there's still time to change your mind. Prime reconsiders his position, and he's like, I probably did make the wrong decision, and he tells Cliffjumper, turn the ship around, we're heading back to Earth. And this is when the discovery is made on the ship that their course is locked on destination Sun. And I do believe this is why you shouldn't, when you start a series of reviews, don't miss out on a few months worth of episodes, because this is the episode I think Cosmos makes his first appearance. Now, Cosmos transforms into a UFO, a flying saucer, and he is flying in space ahead of the ship, and goodness knows why. He's connected to Teletron 1 as well. He's underneath the same destination program that the computer is, though he's not aware of this really at this point. But the ship starts overheating, the Autobots' temperature skyrockets, and they start freaking out. What are we going to do? Ship's locked in course here. Cosmos transforms, flies into the cockpit, and he tries to work the controls, see if he can break the program. No joy. On Earth, Megatron and the Decepticons are in their underwater lair, and they're watching on the monitor as everything unfolds at the sun, and they see on their view screen the ship heading towards the sun, and Burger is with them, and he's still trying to up the ante. I did say in the last episode that Megatron had promised 3 cities, but he hadn't promised 3 cities, he'd only promised 2 cities. But Burger was trying to keep up in the bargain, and he's still begging for his reward from Megatron, and Megatron's just kind of laughing him off, and he's watching on the monitor, and he's physically rubbing his hands together. It's like, this is it, the Autobots are done for. And we do indeed see the ship getting destroyed as it goes into the sun, so we think the Autobots are done for at this point. But it wouldn't be much of a series if they killed off every last Autobot. So they're coming back. So at this point, Megatron, the rest of the Decepticons, along with Sean Burger, head off to the press conference that's set up for the Decepticons, and they go on national television in front of the media they're all there to ask questions, reporters and whatnot, and this guy steps up and he's, Mr. Megatron, sir, now that the Autobots are gone, what are your plans for planet Earth? And this is when Megatron's attitude changes towards the humans. Up to this point, he's been promoting the fact that the Decepticons are in fact good and the Autobots are evil. It was just, cloak and dagger sort of stuff, and he really, really played them well. So he's got the full trust of all humanity at this point. And he's like, I'm glad you asked that, Earth Germ. My plans are to conquer this mudball of a planet and strip it clean of energy. And across national television, straight away, everybody knows what's happening here. We've been had. The Autobots were innocent. But Spike is there, and he's still under the illusion that he needs the VHS tape to clear the names of the Autobots. But in that moment in the episode, it's just like Megatron, just, the attitude changed. He outed the Decepticons for the evil jerks that they actually are. And yes, there's some good bits at the start of this episode that I didn't even touch on there. After the Decepticon day, there's a high school disco going on, and Soundwave is in there dancing a bit out along with Ravage, Rumble, and Laserbeak. All the cassettes are in there having a good time partying it out. But nice little humorous moment, especially for Soundwave, who is completely humorless as a character. Well, he's just kind of there, and the cassettes are having all the fun, especially Rumble. But as soon as Megatron outs the plans of what he's going to do with the planet, he basically starts to enslave the human race to start, actually filling the energon cubes for the Decepticons. And we see different clips of the cone heads, as I call them, Frost, Ramjet, and Dirge, all out, causing chaos in the city, destroying everything in their path and routing up the humans. They're all put in the factories, and Megatron is more than willing to just point the finger at Sean Berger whenever he outs the plans. And this reporter is like, we've been had. And Megatron is like, yes, you have, thanks to my good friend Sean Berger. And Spike tries to make an escape with the tip, and Berger steps up to save him from Ravage and Laserbeak. And good hero moment for the character of Sean Berger in this episode, I have to say. But Megatron did say, you still want your reward, earlier in the episode, and he's like, yes. He's like, and you shall have it, everything that you've earned. So the next time we see Sean Berger, he's in fact enslaved with the rest of humanity, full on energon cubes, and the mayor is in there with them, and he actually says, Megatron was true to his word. He rewarded Berger with everything that he deserved. And you see Berger taking serious abuse from the other humans in the factory. As real work something new to you sort of deal. They're really giving him a hard time about it. And yes, we cut back to the Autobots. Trailbreaker saved them by using his power of force fields to surround all the Autobots, and Cosmos is actually at the front of this, and he's flying the Autobots back to Earth, or so he's hoping. But again, as I did say, he's still under the control of Teletran 1 and the Destination Plan. So the Autobots, even though they survived the destruction of the spaceship, they're actually still heading towards the sun. So how are they going to get out of this one? Well, back on Earth, Chip escapes with the help of Spike. He escapes from the factory, gets himself to Autobot headquarters, and tries to, work with Teletran 1 to see if the Autobots are indeed dead. And before he can actually get to do anything, Frost has been sent out to bring him back by Megatron. Megatron knows he's escaped. Sent Frost out. Frost lands in Autobot headquarters and laughs at Chip, and Chip's begging for Teletran 1 to be saved. He says, this is all we've got left. But Frost blasts, destroys Teletran 1, breaks the link with Cosmos, so they get control back. They start heading back towards the planet Earth, and back at the factory, Megatron is, surveying his good work, shall we say. They hear jet engines approaching. It's the Earth military making a strike on the factory to try and free the hostages, but Starscream and the rest of the jets on the Decepticon force make short work of them, and Starscream shouts after the remaining pilots as they're making a retreat. Any more rescue attempts will result in the termination of the city. So at this point, complete domination of Earth seems imminent for Megatron and the Decepticons. And back in the factory, Burger actually makes one last attempt to stand against Megatron. Megatron is like, he's pointing his arm-mounted cannon at Chip and that, and Burger's like, I won't let you, and he runs across, and Megatron actually physically swipes him off his feet onto the ground, and he's like, grovel for my amusement, and puts the cannon to Burger's head. But this is an 80s cartoon. It was, a lot of the storylines and some of the stuff back in the 80s was fairly dark in tone, but it was never ever visually violent to get there. Well, when I say visually violent, like Transformers did have a habit of knocking 7 shades of crap out of each other, but you would never see one of the Transformers actually killing a human. And we're about 2 seconds away from Megatron actually doing this, and then you hear in the distance engines approaching, and Spike is like, what is that? That sounds like. And then all three of them are like, Autobots. Then of course you hear Optimus Prime, Megatron! Megatron freaks out, takes the cannon away from Burger's head, takes out the wall of the factory and runs out and sees the Autobots coming. And at the end of the episode, the Autobot forces and the Decepticon forces face off outside the factory, and the Autobots are just, no fear right at this moment. They're just going to take out the Decepticons, and in short order they pretty much do. And Megatron's like, we lost the advantage. He flies off, and of course the rest of the Decepticons join him in retreat, as we do in good Transformers tradition. At the end of the episodes, Megatron's plans get completely destroyed. Off they go, and the good guys save the day. So at the end of the episode, great little moment with the mayor and Sean Burger standing shoulder to shoulder, and the two campaign opponents, the two Earth bitter enemies essentially. You could almost say the two Earth versions of Optimus Prime and Megatron, one good, one pretty bad. But Burger at this point is overcome with the guilty conscience, and the mayor is like apologising to Optimus Prime, like, could you ever forgive us? Please stay on Earth. And Burger's like, I don't think anybody will ever be able to forgive me. He's doing everything he can to make up for it at this point. He's even offering to disband his private army that we've seen at the beginning of part 1. But Sparkplug kind of laughs it off, and he's like, oh yeah, that's big of you, Burger, but they all quit whenever they found out what an a-hole you actually are. And Burger's like, I did say I was sorry. And Prime, being the fantastic leader that he was, and a role model to absolutely every kid in the 80s that loved this show, he says to Burger, you're going to face justice, but may it be kinder to you than it was to us. I love that line. Optimus Prime as a character is flipping fantastic. It's unfortunate that Hasbro did not realise what they had in Optimus Prime when they were finishing off season 2, but we'll get to that in due course. Of course, we close out the episode of Optimus Prime and the Autobots, heroes of the day. It's like Autobots transform, roll out. They do transform, off they go into the sunset. Brilliant little episode. If you've never actually gotten into Transformers in any sort of way and you're curious about Generation 1, I would recommend Megatrons Master Plan as like a good entry to the series for you, because it's just, it doesn't really get much better than this until, and I forgot the name of the first episode in the last video I did. There's a two-parter called Starscream's. It's not a part 1 and part 2. It's 2 episodes back to back that are essentially, the second one's essentially the continuation of the first story, but they're 2 separate episodes, if you know what I mean. There's no like title part 1 and part 2. The first one is Starscream's Brigade and The Revenge of Bruticus. That's another good kind of two-parter that absolutely fantastic, and we'll be getting into that in the next couple of weeks. I haven't got the listings for the series here, but we're about, I would say, about halfway through the season at this point. So hope you enjoyed this little review, guys. I'm a giant nerd, love me 80s cartoons, and it is what it is. I'll talk to you in the next episode.